Welcome, friends. Let us together rebuild this world so that we may live, laugh, and lore.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Not listening. I'm not listening.
Oh, that took.
Program loaded and ready.
Make it so.
Welcome to the
Live, Laugh, Lore podcast.
We're your host. I'm Tony.
And I'm Mark. And Tony, can you believe it?
Finally here.
1 year.
1 year. 365, baby. Well, yeah, that works out. Yeah, 365. Yeah.
It's our 26th episode, so
Yep.
it'll be a year.
Yep. Isn't that crazy to think about that just this time?
Yeah.
I remember looking back at it, too. We were at New Year's Eve together. We do our family New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at my Amazon cart buying, like, the audio interfaces, the mic, like, because it was Halloween when we were like, hey, we should really do this. We actually wrote out notes and episode ideas and everything like that. And it wasn't until Jenna also forced us to be like, hey, you need to make an episode. But now that we had a date, it was like a month or two away. And I, no joke, was like just researching all the different audio stuff and everything. It's like, also, if you look up audio equipment, it's like the biggest rabbit hole. You think some of these lores have deep, crazy insider knowledge, like audio and everything like that. So I literally bought it at New Year's Eve, remembering that, last year being like, oh my gosh, did I buy the right things? Is this going to work out? And I had so much apprehensions and everything like that. But Mark, here we are, a year later.
Yeah. It's
Can you
crazy.
believe it?
It is pretty spectacular. And
I was sweating too. That was like a couple $100. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, is this right? But I was like, dude, we have that good audio. So
yeah, it's pretty spectacular because I didn't know what this journey would entail. But it's been a lot more fun than I could have ever imagined, right?
Yeah. I was so nervous that episode 1, we'd sit across from each other and just go, yeah, so this Plagueis guy, he's a tough cookie, but it's been so organic. I can't think of a single episode where I would look back and be like, ooh, like we weren't really hitting our stride. It's just been so fun.
Right.
I don't know. I think that's
well,
what
there
it's
was a
been
couple times after we recorded, we're like, I don't know about this, but then we listened it back and we're like, oh, that was fine.
Yeah. And I think it's just the classic, especially those are our beginning introduction episodes. And I feel like that's when we're the most like, hey, let's do something fun, but put something out that other people will enjoy. And I think every single time we walked away, we're like, ooh, did we do a good job or anything like that? It was always a nervous on either of our ends, like, oh, are people going to like this? And it's kind of funny how quickly it transitioned to just like, oh, no, we're just having fun. But through our fun, people are also having fun listening to it. I mean, I'm not going to lie, like, it is kind of crazy to look back at some of these episodes and really think back and be like, wow, we were really cooking. And those are like some of our best moments. And that was just us having fun.
Yeah.
I mean, there's never a point where we're like, wait, so if we ever monetize this, should we do, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It just hasn't hit it, you know?
It's the episodes that required less, work up front. The stuff that we already knew, right?
Yeah.
That we could already riff off of. Those were the best ones, I think.
Absolutely. And even ones that we couldn't rip off of. A great example was like the Star Trek episode. It's like my favorite episode to date. But it's so funny because like it's one of our least viewed ones.
Yeah, I was gonna
and
say.
so it's like, hey, you'll have that. But it's so funny because I look back at that and I'm like, no matter what, all the Spotify and YouTube metrics can say one thing. But at the end of the day, I'm extremely proud of every single episode that we've created. I mean, there's not a single one where I was like, ooh, this is not great, or anything like that. So it's amazing looking back at that. And it's just, a point of pride for both of us, but also just like pop the champagne, I should have brought down the scotch, Song of Ice and Fire.
Oh, yeah.
Because I still have that one.
Yep.
Remember that? Yeah.
And Kyle's got the other one.
Oh, my gosh. I had the other one.
Apparently, there's a third one. I looked it up the other
Really?
day. There is a third one.
Okay, so for reference, Johnny Walker had a limited edition run of Game of Thrones. What is that called? Versions?
Yeah.
Releases, whatever you want to call that. And it was Song of Ice and Fire, White Walker, because Johnny Walker, White Walker. And then, what was the third one?
So it's actually, so do you have the
Fire one, the Dragon one.
So if you look on it, it's actually it's a Song of Fire on that bottle.
Oh, Song of Fire.
There's a Song of Ice, a Song of Fire, and then the
White Walker.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, recap on that. I was in Florida. This is when we were back in Florida. And the local community, I don't know if they just didn't drink Johnny Walker or they saw the Game of Thrones version and didn't like it. But I went to the local liquor store and I walked in and they had like a sale. It was like buy one, get one off these. And they're like, we can't move these off the shelf. And I'm like looking at them. I'm not even a Scotch guy. I'm like, yeah, you're coming home with me. You know what I mean? Game of Thrones, like, this is so sick. And like I said, I'm not a Scotch guy, so I kept it unopened or anything like that. One night, I tried it with a couple people, a couple board gaming friends there, and we tried the Song of Fire. And I remember tasting and being like, wow, I'm still really not a Scotch guy. Yeah, I'll stick to Captain Coke's kind of deal.
Yeah.
And so that's the only one I opened. So then when we got to moving out to Florida, we put both of those bottles in our moving boxes along with my 3D chess set. It was on the same box. And lo and behold, the only two things that went missing or got damaged was the Star Trek 3-dimensional chess set and Johnny Walker, White Walker, which wasn't opened. So the one that was open, which was the Song of Fire, they didn't touch.
Yeah.
But so I think someone took that bottle out, and when they took the bottle out, it like created this space and it got jostled. But it ended up bending that Star Trek chess set. So it was so funny because I had to go back to the insurance company and be like, "Hey, some of my items got damaged," and they're like, "What items?" And I was like, "Oh my god, okay, so it's a Star Trek 3-dimensional chess set and White Walker, Johnny Walker," and the guy's like, "What?" So I sent him pictures and everything, and it was like, I got a little pay Skaruski out of that. It was pretty crazy. Got a little payday out of that. That was the only time. I mean, it was a little chunk of, because I've got a lot of collectibles, but I never look at them for the monetary value. You know what I mean? But that was the only time where he was literally like, "Well, how much is it?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Let me check it out." And I was like, "Oh,
So they don't make it anymore.
whoa,
Right?
They do not." I was like, "Oh, thank you, whoever did that." So. Yeah, I don't think I ever did anything fun with that money, but besides the point, crack open your special bottles of whatever you have. This is a celebration, right?
Yeah.
This is a reflection on the year. This is a reflection of looking back and
The
saying,
end of season 1.
of season 1.
Yeah.
We're not doing seasons, but end of season 1. We're hoping to get good
Metaphorically.
score. Yeah.
The next episode will be the start of the next year
Next year of the life. And so with that reflection state being there, Mark, let's start talking about it.
Yeah.
Right? What do you think, when you look back at it, we enjoyed a lot of these episodes, but what do you think to date is your favorite episode? Like, if you had to look back at it and go, wow, I really enjoyed this version of this episode. And also, let me twist it on you, too. This would be second question.
Okay.
Second question would be, what episode, in theory, did you have walking in being like, ooh, I don't really think, I don't really know about this one, but then all of a sudden it kind of turned a corner and it went really well?
So I think my answer to both is the same one.
Oh, wow. Okay, which one?
Our very first one, Plagueis Plot Twist.
Oh, okay.
I think
Aptly named, by the way. Yeah,
I mean, I loved all of our guest episodes. They were fantastic.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But I was really nervous. That was the first episode. I wasn't really too sure if this was going to be a long-term thing. I didn't know what was going to happen. But we had so much fun that first episode. Even though it was our first episode, I think it was one of the few that we came out 100% solid. Like, this is going to be...
Yeah,
this
it struck gold.
This was going to be good.
Yeah.
So, definitely, I think that one will always hold a special place in my heart.
And I think it's funny, too, because if you listen back to that episode, I listened back to it just recently, actually, you can hear when we both, like, kick it into gear. Like, you can almost hear it. I mean, we know each other well enough that I think you just know it in your own voice. Like, I don't think we were necessarily, our voice was shaky or anything, but you could just feel it. I think it's right when we started talking about Valorum getting, usurped. It was like, whoa, the vote of no confidence. It's ironic because the vote of no confidence gave us the confidence. And then all of a sudden we cooked. So, no, that's a good one. I like that one. I like that response.
How about you?
Oh, man. It's so funny. Every single guest episode has bits and pieces of, like, my favorite parts of it. I don't know why. I really like the triangle of just, like, the rat-a-tat, going all around and saying our stuff. So if I could, I would just put all the guest ones right up there. But if I had to do, like, an actual episode, I would probably say Philosophies of the Sith.
Yeah, you cooked on that one.
I like that one. I think that was the one that inspired it all. I think the Plagueis one, we were too nervous going right out the gate because that was one of the first episode ideas we wrote down was Philosophy of the Sith.
Yeah.
And we both kind of felt, or, at least I did, sorry if I'm putting words in your mouth, but I was like, oh man, I really don't think that we don't want to come out of the gate with just a pure lecture. And at that time, I don't think we knew enough to, like, roll with the punches at most. Like, I was a little too fearful to just come out as a lecture. Hey, they did this, boom, 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 boom. So I'm so glad we did the Plagueis one, but I think my favorite ones was Philosophy of the Sith.
Yeah.
The one that took the most turn was honestly, I think it was the Jenna episode. And this is nothing against Jenna. I love you, sweetheart. There's nothing against you. No. I know. I absolutely love Jenna. I think the reason why it was such a turn, I think, was because Jenna was asking all, by the way, this is something about my wife that I absolutely love, but at the same time, like, it's mind-blowing sometimes. She asks the most, like, deep, thoughtful questions that make me, like, have a knee-jerk response, being like, oh, yeah, or oh, no, or whatever. And then I think about it for, like, 4 more hours after the fact. You know what I mean? Like, where she's like, you know, it's like the classic little things where, like, are you guys ever nervous? Like, what if this, like, audio doesn't work? Or what, like, everything. And it wasn't, like, she wasn't being, you know, it's not mean. She was just being, like, very thoughtful because she was, like, how we felt, like, you know, we listening to your voice on an episode for an hour. That's kind of crazy to think about. Or, like, when you get in front of the mics, does your brain just turn off? And I think right before that episode, because that was still recent, that was, like, 5 episodes in, I think my whole, like, brain was just, like, oh, my gosh, like, I was like overthinking everything almost. And that was our first time with all 3 mics here, and I had to do different audio software, which I'll get into that with our lessons learned section. But I had to do a bunch of that stuff like on the fly, and that really, like, I was so nervous for that episode, but Jenna did so well. We both did, you know what I mean, like with the guests and everything. I was also nervous about that dynamic, and we just killed it. So I think the first 5 minutes I was like, oh, I'm a little nervous, but we turned it around. It was so much fun. I think that'd be the one, that'd be my turn.
Yeah. Because we started recording late because we had to figure out the third mic and stuff. I remember that.
Yeah, oh yeah. And that was the other thing, too, because I thought I had it on lock, and then all of a sudden, well, yeah, I could talk about the lessons learned, but yeah, there's a lot of more there, and I didn't really appreciate it at the time. So, Mark, we talked about our guest. I jokingly put down favorite guest. You know what I mean? Like, hey, which one was our favorite? And looking back, I'm going to alter the question. I think we should do what was your favorite part of each guest episode. I think that's way better because I literally gun to my head if someone's
like all of them. Yeah,
gun to my head if someone's like, "Hey, what was your favorite episode?" I would say pull the trigger. Yeah, like I'm not gonna decide. You know, if all of our guests were hanging off a cliff, I would save all of them. Yeah.
Okay, so our first one was Jenna.
Yes.
Which special shout out to her because if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
She's the one who kicked us
my
into
eye,
doing it.
Love my life, Queen of all angels. Yep. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think for sure.
So that was a great first episode. She came, I think, more prepared for that episode than we do sometimes for our episodes.
1,000%. But that's because remember I was saying she was asking all the questions because this is just the way her brain works. It's just brilliant. Instead of, like, being anxious or whatever, she'll think of the question, and instead of, like, pondering and be like, ugh, she'll just, like, write stuff down. Or, like, complete woman of action and just absolutely kill it. So then when she came in with that notebook, I was like, oh, my gosh, Jen. You know what I mean? Like, I thought we were just joking around here, you know? So it was great. It was fantastic. But she did come in prepped.
Yeah. I liked it that she was our first expletive of the podcast.
That was my favorite moment. My favorite moment was, I'll never forget, I waited until the very last second to edit that episode, which is a horrible idea, because it was the first time doing, like, 3 tracks and learning how to edit and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's still newer to it. And I'll never forget she said that expletive, and I sat there for, like, 20 minutes because I took it out first. And then the rest of our podcast wasn't cohesive. Because, like, she was finishing a thought that made, you know, that bled into other things.
Yeah.
And it was about Tyrion and the dad, like, the relationship. And this was, like, a key part of the relationship, for better, for worse. And so I was like, well, I can't cut this out. I can't keep it in. So then I spent like probably 10-15 minutes looking up beep noises, MP3. That would make you go insane.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, I literally like cuss word beep, like they do a normal podcast.
Yeah.
And to this day, I don't know how they do it. Because like I looked up 7 beeps and I was like, this is so annoying. Like I can't even, you know, and it was just long enough of a word that I had to stretch it and do all this other editing. And I don't know what caught me, but I was like looking back and I'm like, well, I already have a bunch of MP3s on these samples. Let's just see what happens. And I, no joke, put Gandalf saying Fool of a Took on there, and it was the exact down to like the millisecond phrasing.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm a genius. Yeah. This is unreal. You know what I mean? Like, I don't often pat myself on the back, but that was like my favorite part of that entire episode, being like, oh my God, this is brilliant. You know what I mean? Like, this is great. And so, and the fact that the rest of our expletives are like that too, it's just, it's caused a good precedent. You know?
Yeah. Well, there's 2. Hers and I had one too, and that was it.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll have one this year.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll be honest, we do cuss quite a bit. We just cut them out.
Yeah,
I mean?
It's
like
true.
in between or something. We've had a mic fall on one of us, and I was like, that was a couple choice words there, but Yeah, no, but that was probably, I think that same moment, right? You know,
yeah.
that whole Fool of a Chuk, I think that was fantastic.
Yeah. And then I liked building my court, and you guys all thought I was crazy because it was full of king
Mark,
killers.
You're dead. You literally had the most king killing court, you know. And Jenna came in because she thought about it for like a week, and she was like, "I'm the most safe. I literally can't die. Like this is I'm gonna be good to go." So episode 2, or sorry, not episode 2, but guest 2. What do you think your favorite one was?
So that was that Paul and Joe? Was that the One Piece episode?
Paul and Joe. Yep.
Well, funny story. Paul told me the other day when I saw him, and I think I'm willing to say, well, maybe I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's not the only one of our guests, but Paul, when he's bored and has nothing else to listen to, he'll just listen to his episode.
Yeah.
He's listened to it about 5 times.
And it shows. That's like our second most watched. Number 1 was Plagueis with a plot twist. That's the number 1.
Yeah.
And by the way, we don't focus on our analytics. I need our listeners to know that we'll never change our ways to try to get more listens. It's actually pretty wild. You can study the algorithm and make these small changes. But then all of a sudden you kind of give a little creativity piece away.
Yeah.
And I'm like unwilling to do that. But sorry,
it's
so
nice.
just,
It's nice to know what they are.
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah. It's good to keep the finger on the pulse, and it's like kind of cool to look at. But I want them to know that when we say analytics, I'm not a YouTuber or whomever. We're not YouTubers or whomever trying to work the algorithm, trying to get the most views, trying to do whatever. It's like when we say analytics in an odd way, it's just like, oh, we look at it and we go, oh, okay. You know what I mean? We're taking the information in. We're not really doing any action based on it. So just wanted to mention that. But yeah, Paul did say that, and I was like, you know, hey, I mean, to each their own. Hey, another listen. Yeah, heck yeah.
But I think probably my favorite of that episode was, I think, how well Paul and Joe worked off each other.
Yeah, by the way, if you guys don't know, Joe and Paul, I don't think they ever met before that episode. I gave each other their numbers so they can text each other. Mm-hmm. But that was about it. They've never met.
And they had a short, brief phone call about it, and it worked really well.
Yeah, and their chemistry was fantastic. Mm-hmm. I mean, oh my goodness. I truly think my favorite part was probably going through, seeing, you know, we were both Game of Thrones fans. And so when Jenna was talking, I think we were able to riff around a lot more. Mm-hmm. One Piece episode, we weren't.
We were listening. Yeah.
We were listening, and I think that was a new dynamic that I was really excited about, because that was probably the first time that we had, like, you know, resident expert come on the board, and, you know, that we didn't even peripherally know about.
Yep.
So the fact that hearing them talk about it, but then also us saying our fruits was kind of fun, because we were like normies. Yeah, we don't know what we're talking about. And having them respond to them, that was a lot of fun.
And I
like that.
They were like, so which of the users were you looking at when you were researching this fruit? Because like sometimes there was multiple users, and I'm like, I don't know, I just thought there was one, you know. And they're like, no, well, there was this guy. You know?
I literally went blue fruit, and there's 2, and I was like, wait, one's a dragon, the other one's a fire phoenix. I was like, oh yeah, that's it. You know what I mean? And yeah, that was about it. You know. And then, of course, when I Googled it more, I ended up having more decision. So there's more than just the colors. But it is funny that but it's kind of funny. Someone went the same way to us with one of our franchises. You know what I mean? Like, oh, what's your favorite character? Or what's your favorite, I don't know. What's a good example of that in another franchise? Probably Jutsu and Naruto or something.
Yeah.
I guess you could probably do something like that. And you're like, you know. So, I can see... I could see their gears running in their head when we gave our responses, and how, like, internally they're like, wow, I'm really glad they said something. Also, we were kind of throwing a dart at the wall. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. I really liked that episode. That was our first really big one.
And is it still our longest, or did the last one overtake it?
I don't know. I think maybe the video games with Ben was our long. I would have to look at that. That's a good point, because those are the few that took 2 hours. Mm-hmm. But the next guest one was Sean. Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, that one was awesome. I love that episode.
Oh my gosh.
That's the only one that we've had a pre-meeting with the guest on.
And we didn't even mean to have it, by the way.
Yeah.
That was just, Mark had a bonfire at his house, some drinks were flinging,
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, drinks were flinging, I don't think that's a term, some drinks were going around, then all of a sudden, you know, we broke out with one classic lore talk, and Sean was there, and we hit it hard. Mm-hmm. And by the way, we didn't have that whole episode mapped out. We were just, like, talking about what we would even want to talk about, and that was, like, the big meeting.
We outlined it, yeah.
Yeah.
And It was awesome. I think we killed it, and that we should all be hired by Lucasfilm to rewrite it, because that was awesome.
Honestly, Mark, if I can change my answer really quick. I'm sorry for doing this to you, but let me change my answer really quick. My favorite episode. Actually, never mind. Let me keep my favorite episode, but I will say, to go back on it, because I don't want to pick a guest episode. I don't want any of our guests to feel like I'm singling them out. Seriously, that felt like a writer's room.
It did.
No joke. That was one of the most fun. Like, that was one of those moments where I was like, oh my gosh. My heart just exploded. I was so much fun. That's really where I need to be, in that creative space, talking about that stuff with the boys, and just like, we were all just riffing off each other, and we hit points where I was like, oh, you could literally make this into a movie. Like, no joke.
Yeah.
If there's any episode where I'm like, someone please listen to this and pick it up, it would be that episode.
Yes.
I think we solved that hard problem really well.
Yeah. Because, like, I know I do it to you, you do it to me, where you point out things that I never thought about, and then having a third person in the room, like Sean was throwing ideas that I'm like, well, like,
of
duh.
course.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
my
because
gosh.
I had something here, like, no, that's better. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And and I think that's what made it most fun, is it wasn't anyone, hopefully it didn't feel like anyone was steamrolling the other person.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like that. It was just like, we were just riffing so well, because it was like, what if we do this? Or what if we do this? And then all three of us going, oh, no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just like eureka moment after eureka moment. I think that one was the one where, if I had to do any episode that was probably the longest but felt the shortest, it was that episode.
Time flew
I could have
by.
went 4 more hours.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yep.
So I think that our favorite moment was just kind of, or at least my favorite moment was like the writer room, like that experience of just
The feeling of the episode, yeah, absolutely.
And it was palpable in the room. Even when I was editing it, I could feel like the hairs on the back of my neck like prick up, and I was like, "This is so much fun."
It was Palpatine in the room.
Yeah. He like came back somehow.
Somehow, Palpatine returned.
Trash. Yeah, I sent you the meme the other day where it's like, I'm the spy, and the umpire never stops throwing up.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that got me. When I saw that, they're like, yeah, it's like Disney writing. Oh, those memes kill me. But no, that was so much fun. Oh, that was top. That was top tier. The next guest was, so I'm going down a little bit.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Nintendo nostalgia.
Sorry, I had to think about that. I was like scrolling down in our storyboard, and I was like, where is this?
Well,
Or
that
sorry, I
episode-
didn't Google anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all right.
That
sorry.
episode was great because it evolved from what it was meant to be. You know what
Are
I
you
mean?
kidding me? Like, we came in and Ben was like, I want to talk about Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon. We talked about Dragon Ball Z for a total of maybe 2 minutes, and we talked
At the
about
very end,
Pokemon maybe 10. But I think that one, it was less of the writer's room, but it was literally like,
Nostalgia, memory lane.
yeah, that was no joke. It was like those chairs, that J-shaped chair that you had in the basement of your at your parents' house.
Oh, yeah, of
That
course I remember
Stephen
that.
and Karen gave you for
Yeah.
your, I think it was your birthday or something.
Either that or God. It might have been a godchild gift, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was, but it was for your birthday, I think. But it literally was like Ben was back at your parents' house with us, drinking Sprites and talking about this. Like, there was so much memories flowing, and that is the one episode. So my mom listens to the podcast, and she was like, that was the most, and she was like, I don't even know how to word it, like, human one. Like, not human, but it was just like, it literally felt like you guys were just hanging out. And it was just like, because we didn't cover really much of anything, I mean, lore-wise, but we just, like, talked things through. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think that one, for me, I think it was just the fact that he evolved so quickly. And we got into the video game topic, which we both are super passionate about. And I never imagined us talking video games on here. So I think that surprise twist of video games was probably my favorite part. And then feeling like Ben was back in when we were little kids talking about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you kind of the same way with that?
Well, 100%. Yeah, it felt like he was another cousin. I mean, that's what it felt like.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Ben, you heard it here. You know, welcome to here. Yeah, welcome to the fam. We have a lot of cousins. What's another one? It's not that bad. And then the very last one is Gabe,
Yes.
number 5.
The EU.
The EU. This one I was pretty pumped about. This was the one I had the most background knowledge on, I think. Of all, I mean, Star Wars one with Sean had a lot. Game of Thrones I had peripherally a lot, not as much as Jenna, but peripherally a lot. Video games one, that was just natural. And One Piece I had none. But this one was like, I read a lot of the books and everything, so I felt pretty good about it. My favorite part of this one was talking about Warhammer and X-Wing. I never imagined a conversation talking about like those war games with them. That was a whole lot of fun. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that piece of it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too because besides the tabletop RPG game episode, I really had to research for that episode because I read like only a few of the books, right? But I love everything about the EU.
Yeah.
In any universe, right? So I've spent a lot of time going down Silmarillion rabbit
Wikipedia,
holes,
yeah.
right? And a lot of time now for that, a lot of time going down Wikipedia rabbit holes.
Yeah, that's
and
what-
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's fun, but it sucks because I'll start at a normal time and then I'll look at my phone and it'll be like 2:30 in the morning.
Yep.
And I'm like, I have work in the morning.
I should probably go to bed. But I will say, you said you weren't that experienced. I felt like you were. You knew a lot of that stuff, and you had
the
you've
research,
had this
man.
but you've had that for a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it's one of those funny things where it's like, yeah, you might have not gotten the books, but you got all the information of the book. Mm-hmm. Exposition of this, like that. You know what I mean? Not that big of a deal, but
Yeah.
I feel like you were well prepared for that one.
Yeah.
There's no that's the other thing too. I've never felt like in any of our episodes we both looked at each other and went,
Right.
what were you just talking about, or how should we talk? I feel like we're
Yeah.
good at connecting it.
Sometimes we're a little too prepared and we have
Correct.
too much information, right?
Yeah.
We can talk more about that in the Lessons Learned. But
Yeah.
But it was funny. I think I told you I saw Gabe right before Christmas, and he had
Oh, I didn't know that.
and he had bought a whole box full of more EU books,
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
and he organized them. He bought them for like $1 a piece, maybe, or something like that.
Dude, Gabe,
Yeah.
text me, brother. I need to get on this.
Yeah, so
I
you
would
got
love
like
to
a-
have that.
Couple of complete series. He was mad because there was one book that was supposed to be in the box and it wasn't.
Oh, that sucks when you like have a full series.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's getting like X-Wing or not the X-Wing books. Oh my gosh, wherever. No, it is called X-Wing. I can't remember. I'm messing this up.
There-
I know.
there
I
was a
shouldn't have
bunch.
said it.
There was a bunch.
Or
There was
Star
like-
Squadrons. No, that's a video game.
Well, he had some
whatever.
like the Han Solo trilogy in there. He was saying some like pop up book. There was like a an animated like of the original trilogy.
Oh, that's cool.
There's some really cool ones in there. Yeah.
I will never forget, and my mom, I looked everywhere in my parents' house. The one book I wish I have, I know I can find it somewhere, it's probably not that big of a deal, but it was like the encyclopedia of Star Wars, and that was the first time I ever figured out the name of Max Rebo. Because it went over
Your
Mos
boy.
Eisley. Yeah, dude. I was like, dude, this playing, piano playing elephant named Max Rebo. I was like, that's so sick.
Whereabouts currently unknown.
Whereabouts currently unknown. God, I send a prayer up for him, my boy, dude. I think about that a lot. I truly think about Max Rebo more than I should. And I know this is like people think I'm joking around. Like whenever someone mentions Star Wars and I ponder it for anything more than like 4 seconds, it's in the back of my mind. I think about it. No, dude, that's awesome. And yeah, hey, really, that'd be cool to get some of those books. I'm excited to see what Gabe builds up in his collection.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the other thing, too. I think that was another thing I was thinking about. I've only talked to Gabe like one other time, and it was like maybe 10 minutes. So I really didn't know Gabe. Everyone else I knew. You know what I mean? I talked a lot, too. But because let's think, you didn't know Ben.
Yeah, really not.
So and Joe. So really...
But I had met him a couple times before. He was here at like Josh's.
Going away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so you knew of each other. Okay. Yeah, but that was kind of funny. We each had like a guest that we really didn't know too much about, and it was kind of fun seeing these worlds collide because I was like, you're talking with Ben, I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy, you know. So
Yeah.
Then probably myself talking with Gabe is probably another one there too. So I'm very very excited. So to put a bow on this, we're still doing the five guest episodes,
Yep.
or every 5 episodes a guest.
Yep, that's
Super excited. And I think we're going to have one special guest appearance where, Mark, we might be out of a job that week. We might not even be on the mics. I don't want to
That's
say
true.
much. I don't
Yeah, I
want
don't
to say much.
wanna
Yeah. But Mark and I might be out of a job one of these weeks. So, dear listeners, keep involved.
temporarily, just for an
Temporary,
episode. Yeah, just for an
temporarily.
episode. It's not like we're.
But the worst part is that if we put that out and then all of a sudden that gets the most views and we get, that's
Then
our
we will
break,
be out of a job,
Then we'll
yeah.
be
Yeah.
out of a job. Hey, we're still the co-owners of this, Mark.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
know when the talent's good. you know?
Exactly.
So no, that was super a lot of fun. But no, I'm very excited to see what's on the horizon of these next guests.
Yeah.
Having repeats or brand new stuff. There's so much on the horizon. I'm very 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 excited about.
So be on the lookout. We're on the hunt for guests. For next year.
Yeah.
So.
And if you've been on a guest on the podcast, sharpen the skills, baby.
Yep.
We're cutthroat now. You know what I mean? I've got we got a list.
Yep.
We should hold auditions. Just, hey, come on. You know what I mean?
Why do you want to be on the podcast?
Why do you want to be just an SNL? Do you ever hear about the SNL auditions? Mm-hmm. You can't react or anything, so it's just us on the table. So tell us about your favorite lore. Just blank face and just wait for it. I could not imagine doing that ever. It just freaks me out.
Yeah, that would be.
I couldn't even do that as an interviewer, let alone an interviewee. So no worries, guests. You're more than welcome. But no, we'd love to have people. So, Mark, now I will be hard pressed on this question. Favorite topic, least favorite topic. And least favorite topic could be, and most favorite topic could be, whatever. But if you had to look back, because the episode, it could be the same episode as your favorite episode. You know what I mean?
So by topic, you mean
like someone
episode...
talked about some line of, you know what I mean? Like we had a good back and forth or anything like that.
Yeah. You don't mean type of episode, you mean...
No. Probably like a back and forth.
And
then least favorite too.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I can start off with my least favorite. That helps.
Yeah,
I think.
if you've got it off the top of your head.
My most favorite is very difficult. My least favorite, and I feel bad for saying this. This is nothing against the actual episode. The contents of the episode. The March Marvels. Absolutely loved it. Only reason why I'd even put it there is my own personal insecurity of, dude, Marvels is such a nerve point for me. Or what's that called? Nerve point,
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Gosh, dude, why can't I think of that? Not a weak spot, sensitive spot, whatever you want to call it.
Point of contention.
Yeah, point of contention. But the point is that I am so much of a completist that when comic books like DC or Marvel comes out to me, I have to treat it like the bad kid on the block kind of deal, where I got to keep it at arm's distance because I'm like, dude, I either have to be fully consumed and get everything inside and I have to, I'm a completist, I have to read all this stuff, or I have to treat it very peripherally. Mm-hmm. And treating it very peripherally is the only way I know how to treat Marvels and DC. So that's where I had to do the same thing for that one. But that was the only one I would even consider. It was a super fun episode.
Yeah.
It was the only one when I think about it, I'm so not knowledgeable on it that I couldn't help you out in that episode. I felt that's where I felt really bad during that episode because I'm like, dude, I can't help you out. Yeah. I really can't. I mean, I tried to get into it. I just can't do it.
No, and it's okay. And it's funny enough because I was thinking that episode, and I think I'm going to choose it as well. Because
as your least favorite?
Yeah, well, for my insecurity, it's a different insecurity of yours.
Okay.
Because I love Marvel, and I felt like even after the episode, I still do, that I did it in injustice. I didn't do it because originally
there's so much.
Well, there was so much, and I tried to squeeze it into one episode, and then the episode was too long, so we split it into two, which was fine.
Yeah.
But both were.
So I think it was the right move at the end. But yeah,
it was the right move, but they were both a little shorter. But if I went into it knowing it was going to be 2 episodes, I would have restructured it differently, and I think conveyed
maybe
it better.
We revive.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. You know what I mean? March 2025 is New Year.
Yeah.
New Year.
Yeah.
And if you give me an ample amount of time, I think I could probably get back to it. With the kid on the way, we might be getting Disney Plus here. By the way, Jen and I, strict household of we only do 2 streaming services at any given point. And, of course, there's some absolute bangers of, child shows and everything like that on Disney Plus. So in the very near future, we might be getting Disney Plus. But the second we get that, I'm going to catch up on all of the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
I'll try to catch up on. I don't know if I'll make it through Acolyte, but I'll try to catch up on as much as I can with an open mind. I'll try to get through it. But the other thing, too, is that I really want to make an honest-to-God, effort to get through Marvels. Mm-hmm. At least the movies, TV show push. Because I've never done that. I mean, I've seen the movies, like I said, peripherally.
Right.
I went to opening night of, oh my gosh, the big fight one.
What?
When the
Infinity
Thanos
War?
Yes.
Or Endgame?
Endgame. Literally, it was just because I was at a college party and I was talking about something with lore, me. I was, whatever. And one of the guys is like, it was actually a pretty sad situation. His girlfriend broke up with him, or he broke up with his girlfriend. Whatever. They broke up.
Split. Yeah.
And he was like, dude, I got an extra ticket. And I was like, I would be honored. I was joking around.
Not quite a honeymoon cruise, but
Yeah, it's the same. You know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And so that was the only reason why I even watched it. And I opened it was opening night where people were cosplaying and everything, and I was all in for it. But then once again, I felt bad. There's my insecurities again going out and being like, I should know more about this franchise. I'm literally taking a seat because that's where I feel horrible. I'm like, I'm taking someone's seat who probably would really appreciate this. So I felt horrible the whole movie. And then I rewatched all the movie, you know what I mean? Some of the movies afterwards. He's a super cool guy, Jacob. If you're listening to this, you're a homie. Thanks for that ticket, dog. But yeah, no, I think, and like I said, there was nothing on the content or nothing on your end. It was completely on mine of just I didn't know. So I'd love for, maybe that's my New Year's resolution, 2025.
Yeah.
Or year 2 of the podcast is just getting more understanding of Marvel as we go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, because, like in Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm like, dude, who is this time guy? Apparently, that's a really big deal. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, these anchors and these people who, what are they called? The people who keep track of all them.
The TVA, the Time Variant Authority.
Ah, okay, thank you.
That's
I
big,
didn't even know.
That's big in Loki.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
That's why I would love to do that, because I think another thing too is that episode would probably feel a lot better if I was supporting you more. I was not supportive at all. Not saying I wasn't supportive, like as a co-host or whatever.
Yeah.
I just wasn't supportive because I just didn't know. So, dude, no worries. That was completely on my end. So,
no, all good.
But yeah, what do you think your favorite one is? This is where I think it's more difficult.
It is more difficult because there's a couple that I really liked.
All right, let's shoot them. Let's do top 3. We'll do top 3.
Okay, top 3.
Yeah.
I really liked our MVH episode, our Most Valuable Hobbits.
Oh, dude,
I had so much fun with that one.
That was you, dude. Honestly, 1,000%, that should absolutely be in your top 3. You cooked, dude. Blackened the, everything. What is that called? Blackened the shrimp and, shrimp on the bar. Everything, dude. You freaking cooked, because that, bringing the wizards in and tying all that in, that was like my moment when we did Sean and we were writer's room. I looked at you, I was like, dude, I don't recognize, like, you're an ethereal being.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was sick. That 1,000% has to be up there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love that one. That was so much fun. That one, that was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. For sure, that one.
What do you think number 2? Or did you do an unordered number 3? Like unordered top 3?
Yeah,
Okay.
unordered. Well, actually, that may be my favorite.
It has to be, dude.
Yeah.
You did so well.
Yeah.
Mark, if I could give you a promotion, I would. You know what I mean? If I can give you a pay raise, I would. But...
Yeah. So I think that one, I really like the what ifs. So,
ooh, yeah, yeah.
So that one, Lupin B. Howlin, and probably Plagueis is
Classic.
probably number 3, right? But
Yeah.
that's my favorite because I feel like the writer's room.
Yeah.
there,
Oh yeah. I think you're right. The what ifs are our writers' room, and then the Sean was like a full on writers' room. Kind of goes to show you need like 3 people for a writers' room.
Yeah.
2 is fine. I think that's good. But
Yeah.
3, that's a lot of fun. I would have to say my top, not ordered. Ensign's Log was a big one. I really like the fact that I was able to get you to watch Star Trek.
Yeah.
I also really like the fact that I was able to get in the Pale Moonlight and also the Inner Light. Gosh.
Yeah, Inner Light.
Yeah.
Trouble with Tribbles and...
In the Pale Moonlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, Inner Light, that's TNG. Yep.
Hey, maybe we'll have to do another Star Trek episode.
Yeah, I can get you another 3. I can
give
cook
you
you up.
three.
I can cook you up. But yeah, no, sorry. So going back on that, the fact that you were able to watch those 3, but also that we were able to talk about it, there's just a repository of Star Trek knowledge I always like showing, or like flexing that muscle, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. Talking back and forth on that was a lot of fun. And seeing a lot of the inside jokes from someone who's just like watching those 3 episodes with no other context was a lot of fun, and delivering that context was a lot of fun. Yeah, I think probably number 2 for me, it has to be one of our what ifs. I'm just trying to think of what our favorite one was. Like the one that I'm thinking of that was just like, the Plagueis one was so fun.
It was, yeah.
That was like our first one. It was right out the gate. Lupin was a good solid second, I think. But if I had to pick one what if, I think I'd do the Plagueis one. It was just such a good riff. I think that was really solid. I think the other third one I would probably choose was probably your Ilvermorny one. It was one of those, you kind of get really stuck into this Harry Potter just school rhythm, and the fact that you were able to look back, at the school that quite frankly was in a franchise that didn't do too hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the fact that you were able to pull that together, and I was just kind of more of a listener on that one, I really enjoyed that just from a perspective of like, oh my gosh, like that's how these wizarding schools started. Like, you think there's this grand like, oh yes, 4 wizards come down and they bestow upon each other that we are the founders, and it's like, no, this girl was like, she was an immigrant coming in, you had no idea what was going on.
Descendant of Salazar Slytherin,
Yeah, of course, and in Salazar Slytherin, it's like, so I think that storyline took so many turns that I wasn't expecting from, quite frankly, a very steady franchise. Because when you think about it, Harry Potter doesn't inherently have like a lot of big turning points. She kind of really signals a lot of what's going to happen as she goes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Barty Crouch Jr. was like one of the big, like, whoa, like, what's going on? Like, whoa, this Mad-Eye Moody character this whole time was not Mad-Eye Moody.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the only big, like, really turn your head. But everything else was kind of really signaled before. Voldemort's out there. he wants to get Harry.
Yeah.
Got it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So the fact that there was all these twists and turns, I really enjoyed that. I think that was a fun one.
One of my favorite things about that is that J.K. Rowling actually used a little bit of actual history with that. She found a name that was on the
Yeah.
Mayflower that never showed up on the death rolls for the city. So
That's crazy. I love
so
that.
she's like, okay, he disappeared, and I'm going to make him a wizard. You know,
Mm-hmm.
her disguising as
Him, yeah.
But that
Which is even more wild because then she brought it into this whole. Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a whole lot of fun. Yeah, those were my top 3.
okay,
I think if I had to choose my favorites.
yeah,
but-
but they're all good. They're all good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't stress enough. Like literally even the worst one, like when I say worst ones, even the ones that I felt like the most not prepared for, it was still so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've never walked out of here feeling bad, you know. The first couple ones. Hey, speaking of feeling bad in the first couple ones, lessons learned.
There
Mark,
we go. Yeah,
What the heck did we learn?
yeah.
I think my big learning points were honestly audio engineering. I kind of took it for granted. Everything from the hardware all the way down to the software. It is such a balanced ecosystem. And just a couple episodes ago, when we got you in the editing game, it was so weird. I have a version of Audacity. You had a version of Audacity. There are different versions from each other. And it took me like an hour to figure out what's going on. And then it forced me to update my Audacity to your version because you had a recent version.
Yeah.
And then so I updated it, then all my presets changed. And so it's just like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like sometimes this audio engineering is literally like, it's a sandcastle and I'm trying to protect it against a hurricane. Like, I just hope that I don't shift it enough and then all of a sudden like it all kind of crumbles down. So, speaking of lessons learned there, I just looked at it now, talk about 26 episodes down the line. All of our guest episodes, it's used a different software because we have to use 3 channels. This is now getting into audio engineering. I'll be really quick. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Audacity is really good when you have 2 channels, right? 2 channels meaning 2 microphones, right?
Yeah.
Or 1 channel, 2 inputs. See,
However
I'm
you
not
wanna
even
say it.
I'm
Yeah.
not even good at how I would say it. But whole point is when you get the 3rd input in there, Audacity does not support it. At least the free version doesn't. And you know this podcast is generating so much revenue that we can buy. No, we're not. We're going free only. So when you buy a Focusrite audio interface, which it's a red box right in front of us. That's where our mics go into. And that's what takes all these channels and puts into USB into my computer. But once you buy one of them, you get this Ableton Lite software. It's for free, but you can do 3 channels on it. But it's so complicated and everything like that. So when I first figured it out when Jenna was here, I figured out the solution. And I was like, all right, Tony, don't be dumb. You got it all solved. Just copy and paste it. So every single episode, I was using the same, like Jenna's episode. I would erase our audio files and then add new ones in. Lo and behold, I didn't realize it holds like this metadata across each of the project folders. So as I was doing each episode, I was growing that folder. I was growing that folder enough where I went from 1 gig Jenna's folder. By Gabe's episode, it was over 11 gigs.
Yeah.
So when I was at when I was transferring the episode, I'm like, why is this taking like 20 minutes? It was 11 gigs long, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? So that was a lesson learned. Overall, just audio in general was just a lot, I think. So, Mark, what was your kind of lesson learned? Do you have any? Because you also, let's talk about editing.
I was going to say, the editing, I took for granted how long it takes. So definitely, a lot time for it, right?
Yeah, that was the other thing, too, I should stress. When we first had this, editing was... I was so nervous about the setup of our the computers and everything. Once I found one, because I ended the first episode, I texted Mark, I'm like, I've honestly, this is lightning in a bottle. I have no idea how I'm doing it. Let me just, keep editing. So I just edited all of our episodes for the most part. And that was just because I had the software. I wasn't really thinking about it. And it was a good Sunday activity. It wasn't too bad. But then when we got it to Mark's, that's when we had the first problem. You know what I mean? So I knew that was inevitable. But then it got to a point where a lot going on here. And I was like, oh, this would be good. And plus, it kind of divides it up too. And in a weird way, I wanted you to experience as well. I was like, man, I want someone else to know how editing's like so I don't feel so crazy myself. So, Mark, what was your initial thoughts when you went into editing? I was like, hey, Can you edit this podcast? What was the first thing that went to your head, and then what was the lessons learned out of it, you think?
Yeah, my first thing was okay, here's Tony, and then I'm like, who's that? That doesn't sound like me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm shocked you thought that was me. Whenever I listen to myself, I'm like,
Well, that's the thing. You sound like you to me, but I don't sound like, and it's the same for you, right? Mm-hmm. And so recording your voice and hearing it back, it doesn't hit the same as just hearing it naturally. You know?
Yeah.
What I mean?
Oh no, not at all.
Oh man.
But I will say,
weird.
I think you said the same thing. The first episode was agony.
Yeah.
Just because you ask anybody and their brother, you're like, hey, can you edit your audio? And they'll go, yeah. And then they'll go like, oh my God. Like literally ask anybody across the street, like, hey, you're going to listen to yourself for an hour. All of them are going to be like, dude, what are you, like a psycho? Like, do you really do that? But I will say, like, after that first episode, I turned my brain off where it's like, I'm not listening to myself. I'm just listening to people talk. Yeah. And I feel like that caught on quicker. So did you feel the same way, like, after episode 1, or was it, like, during episode 1, where you're just kind of like, hey, this isn't me. I'm listening to other people. Let me just make this, snappy, quick, and nice.
Yeah. No, it was definitely after episode 1, because during episode 1 as well, it's my first episode, so I wanted it to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
Every little thing.
Oh, wow, you killed it, dude. That was awesome.
Nitpicked the crap out of it, but the second episode, turned it off, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect.
No,
right? You know
no,
what I mean?
no.
I don't have to sweat 10 minutes on, a half a second. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is so funny, because when you start editing, you notice everything.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, because, like, I
that's
bet
what you're listening
listen.
for.
Yeah, I bet you listen to the episodes differently. I did too. Like, the first episode, when I listened to podcasts now, as someone who edits podcasts,
yes,
I notice things where I'm like, God, it's almost like a bat. Like, you break your glass roof. Like, you're
Correct.
like, oh, I can hear, you know what I mean? The stutter, whatever, and I'm like,
because
this is the
before,
worst.
I had it on when I was working or driving, right?
Yeah, you don't notice
so
it.
I kind of tune the background out, and I'm, but now, yeah, I hear like a clink of the ice, a clink of the, maybe like a ding from your phone,
Yeah.
I'm
Which,
like,
by the way, we've never had any alcoholic drinks ever by the podcast, ever.
No.
We've never clinked any glass. No, dude. Every single episode, I'm always like, but when I hear it, I'm like, oh, it's just, we're hanging out. Yeah, I mean, that's fun. It's a lot of fun.
That's why a whiskey glass was part of the One Piece crew.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was a nightmare. I'm so glad you brought that up. That sucked. Like, so I try to do my best to keep it, edit them out. That one, it was like how Joe and Paul were sitting was like acoustically perfect. That whenever any of them grabbed a glass, it was like, it would just reverberate off all 3 mics.
Well, because they were sharing one mic here.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we have 3 mics, so we have 4 people. You know what I mean?
And it was
bad. So Mark and myself had a mic, and then Joe and Paul separated one.
Yeah. They had to sit in my seat because this is the longer side of the table.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I was thrown off too, but that was fine.
I was thrown off too because now Mark was to my right, and I was like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?" I like gazing in the pearly blues. You know what I mean? That's
It is. That is something else too that you have to learn with guests, because you got to kind of like look at them, but keep your mouth, right on the mic.
Good lesson.
Because if you go like that, then
cardioid. So we have cardioid mics. For those who don't know, it's a little hard. You know what I mean? But basically, it's directional. So I can give an example. I can talk on this left side over here, and then I can go talk on this right side over here, or I can talk dead on the mic. And so what ended up happening was, when you talk with somebody, with Mark and I, we're across from each other, so it's very natural. I can look at him, I can talk, look at my computer, everything like that. But when you have a guest who's sitting to your right or left, respectively, all of a sudden you want to turn your head that way, and it's a very unnatural way of thinking, because you have to keep your eyes on your person that you want to talk with, but then you also want to keep your voice directed, centered on the mic. So yeah, that was for sure a big lesson learned, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other big audio ones? Because I wanted to talk about other lessons learned. But those are the big audio ones.
Yeah, I think that's the only audio ones.
And by the way, dude, editing. Now we're both editors, so it's kind of like we both kind of get it. I love that. So
yeah. And
then also the other reason to just to put Mark more on a pedestal is the fact that now with the baby coming, it's like I've running out of time more and more, so Mark has absolutely picked up my slack, and it's been absolutely awesome having another person, so I totally appreciate that, Mark. At this point moving forward, that's why I wanted Paul. We said we pay him in Reese's to edit the podcast, so if you need another person to edit, I think we bring in Paul.
Paul's a lot more talk than he is action, though. So.
Yeah, you're right. Paul, if you're listening to this, if you want to be our next guest, you have to edit at least 2 episodes. Huh? I mean, we could do that.
Hey, I don't know about you, but one of our biggest fans is Jake. He seems to be. He might have to be our first virtual. Distance.
Yeah, we can figure it out. But he's in Columbus. We could bring him in.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. That'd be a lot of fun. That would be a lot of fun. I love talk video games with him. He's so much fun. Yeah. Jake, if you're listening, prep. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've got one message for you, brother. Prep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think outside of the editing, lessons learned it was almost like DMing for the first time. So let me talk this out before I go into more. when you DM for your first time, there's almost like this moment of like, I have to prepare for every single contingency possible. So you end up like over preparing.
Yeah.
And I feel like most of our episodes, especially toward the beginning, I started to learn that the more I had prepared, the more I'm almost not taking your input, or I'm not being as flexible.
Yep.
I'm just reading my data points. And as a podcast, it shouldn't be my data point, your data point, my data point, your data point, and we call it a day. It should be my data point. There's a reaction. Your data point. There's a reaction. So
Right.
There's got to be a normal conversational aspect to this. And I feel like that was one thing I learned very early on. That it was like, oh, I'm planning a framework of what I want to get to. If I don't hit all my points, that's fine.
Yep.
But also, I can't plan my points out talking, because if I do, it's going to turn into a lecture very fast, or it's not going to be a rat-a-tat between the two of us.
Right,
So
which is...
I feel like that was a big learn.
I was going to say that, like, for the deep dives, right? There's a lot of content there, and it kind of gets... Whoever is not presenting the information kind of gets lost in the weeds toward the end of the episode.
Yes.
So we need to shake that up a little bit somehow, make it more of a framework or more of a synopsis type thing.
I feel like we got better toward the end of it, but
agree,
our
yeah.
first few deep dives, it was very much, I'm telling you information, expect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I feel like that's something that we can definitely take on to 2025 or this new year of podcasting, to look at and be like, okay, what can we do to kind of help mitigate that? But yeah, that was one of my big taking a step back and being like planning episodes out.
Yeah.
I think also topic planning got interesting, because I feel like when we first, same kind of problem, when we first started talking about topics, we were both like, we have to be so knowledgeable of this. We have to be the experts in the field. And we would research, we would do everything. And then all of a sudden, some of these what ifs and everything were so left field and just not ad hoc, improv. That's what I'm looking for. And that's what I was like, oh my, like that's the secret sauce.
Yeah.
So finding ways to plan episodes that are more, once again, a framework, but availability to do that improv was huge. And I feel like we started really hitting a stride on that. And that was a big lesson learned, I think, with planning episodes. Do you kind of feel the same way when we do our planning?
100%. Yeah, it's more, I mean, obviously there's things we're going to have to research, right, to make it factually correct, but leaning more on what we already know.
Mark, we know everything. We don't
I
have
know.
to research.
Yeah, is the secret sauce. Like you said.
1,000%.
Those are the best episodes. Leaning on the stuff we already know that we can riff off of, instead of the new material that we are trying to force learn.
And not being shackled to the idea of I have to get everything right.
Correct. And in this episode.
Because at the end of the day, there's no quiz. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, ironically, okay, here's a horrible thing.
We've been wrong a couple times, and our listeners haven't pointed us out. Just saying.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm not going to go that far, Mark. We're always right. No, I was going to say the horrible thing is like, this is not going to be a company 401k. Yeah, I'm not telling you how to open a Roth IRA. This will not, inherently what we're talking about will not logically influence your life for the better. There's no quiz or anything like that. So getting everything 100% factually right is not as important as what we're truly trying to do, which is create a community of creatives that we can talk about our franchises and just have fun with it. And I feel like that's a line that you kind of have to balance of being correct but also being more fun. Do you have any other big lessons learned from kind of episodes that you can think back on, or maybe just in the moment of just being like, maybe even during podcasts? I feel like one lesson learned I have was you start learning how to take out your filler words. I think that was a really big thing for me.
Yep.
I've even noticed that I used to be really good at public speaking. I still think I am pretty good at public speaking. I like doing it during work and everything like that. I'm also with other computer scientists, so even being average is really good amongst computer scientists. But my point being is the fact that this is almost a muscle you have to flex too, because you're talking it out with somebody else, and you're watching your filler words, you're doing everything. So now when I make a presentation, even at work, I'm noticing, I'm like, wow, I'm darn good at, I almost slipped up there. I'm darn good at figuring out public speaking because I've completely cut out my filler words. Because in my head, I'm like, there's a mic in front of me. I'm talking on a podcast. Do I really want to edit this filler word for the 100th millionth time?
Exactly.
And I'm like, no, so let me avoid it. Because that's the other thing about editing. You learn your own comfort words almost. So I still have a few comfort words, and I almost don't want to say them because then you'll notice them in the podcast.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah,
but I still
break
have a
that.
few that I notice, and there's sometimes during an episode I'll say like 6 of them. I'm like, I should not have said that. But is there any one like lessons learned like during the actual recording of the podcast where you feel like, man, I did this during the beginning, and maybe I learned something through it, and I kind of set it out. Because we both had comfort words. I'm sorry, I keep taking probably both of our answers. I'm kind of sorry if I'm over talking here. I don't mean to. I'm just thinking about it in my head.
Yeah, no, for sure that, but also not because we were super nervous the first time we recorded, right?
Yeah.
Like if we cough or we go on something that was completely wrong, and then we realize it halfway through, right? At the beginning of this, we would have thought this was the end of the world. We had to record the episode. Mm-hmm. Now we know just talk normally, and we'll fix it in the editing. You know what I mean?
Throw crap at the wall.
Yeah.
Literally, throw everything you can. We can edit it out. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we learned that really quick.
Yeah. Can't add things in, but you can take anything out.
So in theory, we could add things in, but
yeah,
that's
way
too
too
much work.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
I just imagine you editing until 11:30 at night. You're like, crap, and you come back in here and just record a few little lines to yourself. And throw them in.
I will say the only time I've ever had to record outside of one of our sessions was for a commercial.
Oh yeah,
and that was weird to say the least, because it was in front of my computer, and it felt like I was like almost voice acting. You know what I mean? Like, do you ever? And I was like getting into that voice too, and that threw me off. And I was like, I don't think I could ever like. Because that's common for podcasts, like especially D&D. I listen to a lot of D&D podcasts, but a lot of them do like re-records, they call them, and they literally go into a room, it's just them, and they re-record a line, and I'm like, oh my, that's voice. Like I don't think I could. What's the word I'm looking for? Not natively, but naturally re-record something outside of the fact in the moment.
And make it sound like
the whole point is that we're having a conversation. Like I would rather have a really crappy line. Or something that's not coming out good quality.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to make it really good quality but sound inorganic. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. Well, you get what you pay for it. Totally.
Yeah. And by the way, it's $3.99. Well, it costs a YouTube or Spotify. But yeah. I think those were really solid. I think those were our big looking back at it, and also looking forward to. And oh, by the way, if you guys are, as our community, looking at this and saying, hey, we really appreciate you being introspective at this moment, or we really appreciate you saying this, but Tony, you say this all the time. You should probably, even stuff like that. We can definitely, change all this stuff up because we're learning as we go. I mean, it's not like we went to podcast school. Oh, yeah. It's not like we did anything like that. We're just literally going through, not the motions, but we're literally going through each episode, taking little things away. And we just want you to know, listeners, that we appreciate every single episode. We appreciate you listening to every single episde.
Absolutely.
But we're also learning every single time. Because there's not a single moment where we turn off these mics and Mark and I look at each other, we go silent, and we, Mark walks to his car and we end the night. Every single time we end the mics, we talk about what we talked about. We talk about, hey, you said this, we said this, what's going to happen? How do we want to make this point go through? So there's definitely a lot to it. So I don't want it to think that, we're not being introspective.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So last one before moving forward is community engagement. So Mark, anything big on the horizon? I think I would love to do another mailbag episode.
100%.
That would be a big one for us. I think a mailbag episode. I thought about trying to other ways to build community outreach. I think a lot of the comments after episodes are a lot of fun. Joe does an absolute fan. Every single episode.
Good work, Joe.
Joe has a comment. Joe, I appreciate every single one of them. It's super fun. So please, even if it's something little, even it's just like, hey, I love this and everything like that. That's the one thing I will say. All these algorithms point to one thing, and that's community interaction. So if you really do love this podcast and everything like that, keep listening. We totally appreciate it. But seriously, like even the little things of like commenting on our Instagram or commenting on the actual show notes on whether it's Spotify or YouTube, the algorithm eats that stuff up. And it's really cool to see that community interaction, for better or for worse. We still had that one, that one In Defense of Hufflepuff episode. So regardless, it's super fun. We totally appreciate it. And I think that really builds up not only just our podcast, but it's really cool to see like, oh my gosh, there's other people at the end of this, Because oftentimes it's just Mark and I having fun having a conversation. Yeah. And I kind of forget about that until I look at the analytics. I'm like, oh my gosh, people are like watching it. Which, oh, by the way, I mean, I could pull it up right now, but just right now, we have over 600 streams across 20, well, at this point, 25 episodes, but across 25, that's insanity to think about.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that. And that's a podcast. I mean, we're hitting, that's why I never wanted to establish goals on, hey, I want community involvement. I want to make sure every single episode has this many watches or whatever. But the fact that we're even close to that number, not even in my wildest dreams did I imagine we'd hit that number. And it's all due to you guys. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We couldn't have done it without
it's
you.
huge.
Yeah.
So that's why when we talk about community engagement, I want to just quickly talk about it. It's not like we're trying to force anything. It's just, hey, if you think about it or you want to have fun with it, we're going to interact with you. We're going to have a lot of fun. All good. Whatever you want to do to have fun in this podcast, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and speaking on that, I know we talked a lot about ideas that were submitted at the mailbag episode.
Yeah.
Tony and I are having a planning session after this, and I'm sure
I'm so excited.
This next year, we're definitely going to tackle some of those.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I think our first set of episodes is probably going to be, or we'll probably pepper them in, but still.
Oh, yeah.
They're all planned out.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's going to be fantastic. That's the other thing, too. By the way, Mark and I have planning episodes. If you guys didn't know that, we sit down every 5 episodes, we plan all the episodes out, and then we do that every 5 episodes. So it's good for us to kind of have a good finger on the pulse. We don't want to plan too far ahead. We also don't want to be unplanned and just kind of walk in and just have an episode.
Yeah.
And so stuff like that. The other thing on community engagement is just trying to think of names to call the community. I mentioned the L3 Nation.
L3 Nation.
Live, Laugh, Lore Nation. Yeah, L3 Nation. I think that might be good.
L Cubed.
L Cubed. The Lords and Ladies of Lore. You know what I mean? I thought about that one for a little bit. I like
and that's
that
L
one.
Cubed, too.
L Cubed, yeah. The Lords and Ladies of Lore. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to think of more community things. And if you guys want to be called anything, too, I mean,
suggest it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot out there. So, yeah, I think a lot of podcasts I listen to, they have community names for their people. So I always get a big kick out of that. So I think, Live, Laugh, Lore could do that too. So if you have any suggestions, please let us know. But I think the very last thing is just moving forward. Mark, what's any big things on 2025? I think
I'm thinking we do another commercial, Tony. I think that works.
Really?
I think we should.
Yeah, 1,000%. We totally can.
Yeah.
You got to think about it. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
Planning
It
that
was fun,
commercial was a lot of
and
fun.
it did reach a lot more people than normally.
1,000%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I'm really, I get torn. For sure, we're doing another commercial, without a doubt. But I get torn of like all these other big podcasts. They do the short clips on Instagram Reels, and they do this and they do that. And every single time I kind of balk at it, I'm like, ooh, this would, we don't do video podcasts. Maybe we could do video podcasts, but then that adds a whole nother layer.
Yeah.
And then I try to go in and I go, okay, well, we could do, the Instagram Reels. We could do a quick choppy. Like, can you imagine if we're like, Plagueis did this, and then for 20 minutes we show a guy on Minecraft jumping around blocks and keep people's attention, or different scenes in Star Wars and or whatever. And deep down, it's like we totally could do that, but I work full time. Mm-hmm. You work full time,
Right.
By the way, we delayed this podcast because I'm working on my basement right down. I literally did a full days of work, and then I went back and I mudded some drywall. So it's like, at what point do we try to focus on outreach, but then the creativity suffers or stifles because we're too focused on outreach? So I do want to find a good balance act. We're 1,000% we could do a commercial. That's well within the budget. Budget meaning creativity budget.
Yeah.
But maybe we could do something more on the real side. I don't know. You know what I mean? But it is crazy to think about how effective those reels are. I mean, that's what gets a lot of people and more stuff, and we can do more. There's so many things to optimize this algorithm that you can do.
Yeah.
That there's literally YouTube channels dedicated to building up your Spotify and YouTube following, which is like kind of meta and crazy, but regardless, I'm digressing a lot. But my point is that for that outreach, I want to be careful on that, to say the least.
For sure.
I want to keep true to what we're doing and having fun, but at the same time, we probably could open up more.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, maybe we can do some Instagram. We'll think about it. There's a couple funny ones. I'm like, oh, that'd be great, but I'm curious to see how much time and work it was. So if you do see in 2025 more reels come out of Live, Laugh, Lore podcast, that just means Mark and I got our stuff together. We're killing it. But I think the other thing moving forward, this is not set in stone yet, but baby's coming soon. Mm-hmm. Might be a little downtime. I think we'll still be able to get some episodes out, but we still might be taking some time off or something like that.
Yep.
We're going to kind of see how it goes, but once again, we have lives outside of this.
Yeah.
Life kind of throws some curveballs. We'd love to keep doing this. This is a huge passion project for both of us. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. We'll make sure we keep everybody involved. And the very last thing I said moving forward was there's been a few times this year. I think it's happened 3 times, only 3 times, which is pretty impressive across the 26 episodes or 25 episodes that we've released so far. I've posted the Instagram account on a Tuesday. So I will say every single time we have never failed on delivering the episode on a Monday.
Right.
Never failed. But
A couple times
I have failed. Because Mark knows that my normal thing is I wake up on Monday, which is, by the way, if there's anything I could suggest like on a Monday would be to do something fun planned. Because like that Monday morning, I go, oh my gosh, like I have to post on Instagram for Live That Floor Pod. And it gets my creative juices going. It gets the weeks going. It's absolutely. This is not a motivational podcast by any means, but it's just a fun thing to do on a Monday.
Yeah.
And there's been a few times where I would have meetings or something, or I stay up late editing the podcast, and then I try to get as much sleep as I can, and I don't wake up in the morning at the right time, and blah blah. But we've never failed actually releasing our episodes on a Monday. I've personally failed on posting on the Instagram account. So if you ever see an Instagram account on Tuesday or something, just know that the episode's there.
Yeah.
It's just not the Instagram account. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean?
Have the fun's just putting our faces onto random pictures.
Dude, I'll be honest. That was the one thing, lessons learned or whatever you want to say. That's one of my most fun outlets of the podcast. Because because it's the titles and that where I'm like, I spend a lot of creative juices being like, what should I do? You know what I mean? Like, what would be a fun title? And then what would be a fun Instagram account? And it's like a chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Instagram picture comes first, and then I'm like, oh, that'd be solid. And I go in. Like, in defense of Hufflepuff, like, I was literally going on, and I was like, where's some clip art I can do? And it showed a courtroom, and I was like, oh, my gosh. And I found that courtroom image, and I was like, this is it. And then I did in defense of Hufflepuff. Like, so, sometimes it goes back and forth.
I think my favorite is the one from Ensign's Log where you put me over Jenna, and I just look so...
Yeah. That was the first Halloween picture. Halloween. But that was our first couple picture as a couple.
Yeah.
We dated. Oh my goodness! It was junior year, October 8th. By the way, Jenna, I didn't look that up or anything. Mark saw. Mark,
that's
right?
correct. I can confirm.
Thank you. Brownie points. Thank you. I'll take them. Trust me, I'll take them. But yeah. So we just started dating October 8th, and that Halloween picture was a little bit before Halloween, but we had a party that we were going to with a couple friends, and that was our first ever couple picture. And, by the way, you're reeling a good one when she was like, she offered this, by the way. It wasn't even me who offered it. There's a million reasons why I married up, right? But the one reason was, I didn't even offer this. Jenna goes, hey, by the way, I think it would be awesome if we do Star Trek characters for Halloween. Bro, I didn't incept this or anything. She just did it on her own. And I was like, yeah, I'll order an officer suit, uniform, whatever. I already had one in my closet, big dog. You know what I mean? I already had that one, you know what I mean? But I couldn't say I had it. Yeah. Well, because I didn't know at the time, you know what I mean? I was like, is this broad going to believe me kind of deal? No, I would never call Jenna a broad. We're watching The Sopranos, you know what I mean?
There you go.
So I'm getting a little more of the Italian side.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So we were like, hey, she can appreciate it. But the whole point is that, that was our very first Halloween or couple picture ever. And so that was a big one when it was Ensign's Log, and that was a chicken and the egg. No joke. I was like, I literally asked Jenna the night before I even edited the podcast, and I was like, hey, I kind of have this idea. Would you be cool if I posted your picture to Instagram for our podcast? She goes, well, I don't really know. I'm like, no, but Mark's face is going to be on your body. She's like, oh, that's golden. Yeah, absolutely. And I was like, oh, this is good. This is money. You know what I mean? So, yeah, no, I appreciate you, Jenna. Thanks for not only sticking up with me, but also sticking up with the debauchery of Mark's head on your body for an Instagram post. But, yeah, no, that was probably my favorite post we've done so far. Was that your favorite post? What do you think? Okay.
That one was, for sure.
I think so,
for sure.
But, all right, Mark, closing out on the year.
Yep.
Is there anything else you want any big ticket items that you want to say, hey, 26 episodes later, you want to mention to the fans or anything like that?
No, just forever grateful for their support over the year, and hopefully we've kept you interested enough to stick around for a whole nother year. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I just have to echo that for sure. It's a huge point of pride that not only do we get to do this and be a big old passion project, but the fact that we have people listening in on that passion project is super fun. So regardless, it's so much fun. We totally appreciate everybody's time and effort on this. So
All right. Well, with that, thanks for listening, everyone. Please reach out to us, as always, with questions, mix-ups, and what-if ideas. And
we
really,
need a lot of them.
we need a lot of them. Any other ideas you have for us, right? So
Yeah, in general. Yeah, that could be anything, right? That could even be like, hey, I'd love for you not only to do this episode, but, community engagement.
Correct,
I would like,
yeah.
I really like you doing the polls. Why don't you do more polls? Because we used to do polls a lot
did.
during like fight nights and what
Yep.
ifs idea,
Yep.
during the mix-ups, I was doing polls a lot and being like, hey, did Mark and I do the right thing?
Right,
So
right.
that'd be a lot of fun.
Or maybe even if you have commercial ideas, let us know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Please, if you have commercial ideas. Mark and I are really shaking the brain branches there for the first episode. So
Yeah.
it can be as silly as we possibly can have it. So please definitely give us more commercial ideas. That'd be fantastic. And if you ever ask yourself, well, how do I give you those ideas? How do I reach out with mix-ups, what-ifs, all these fun ideas? You can go to Instagram or X Twitter at the Live Laugh Lore Pod. You can also email us at the livelaughLorePod@gmail.com. That's livelaughLorePod, POD, @gmail.com.
Thanks, guys.